I never expected my sister to strike me in the middle of a crowded airport. One moment, I was checking our boarding group, and the next, her palm collided with my cheek so sharply that the entire terminal fell silent. Conversations cut off. Suitcases froze mid-roll. Phone slowly lifted to record the scene. My name is Rose Morrison. For as long as I can remember, people have described me the same way: responsible, calm, dependable, the daughter who never caused trouble. I'd spent years trapped in that role, quiet, steady, always the one who fixed everything even when it drained me. Growing up in Los Angeles, my younger sister Jessica was the dramatic spark. Loud, emotional, unpredictable, qualities my parents somehow found charming. If she cried, I comforted her. When she messed up, I cleaned it up. And every time our parents needed something, they didn't even glance in her direction. They simply turned to me. So when the idea of a family vacation came up, it felt automatic. Natural. Expected. I paid for everything: the flights, the rooms, the car, the activities. I convinced myself it was generosity. A gift. Jessica claimed she needed a break from her stressful life, even though her routine revolved around quitting jobs and posting inspirational quotes on social media. 5 weeks earlier at a family dinner, she stood up, lifted a champagne glass, and announced, loudly, that she was treating everyone to a fully paid Hawaii trip. My parents glowed with pride. Jessica looked at me, and mouthed a smug "Thank you." I pretended it didn't bother me that she took credit for everything I paid for. I hoped, somehow, the trip would help us reconnect. Maybe heal something. But at the airport, everything shattered. Jessica's slap wasn't the worst part. It was what came after. My parents rushed in, not to defend me, not to check on me, but to comfort her. Dad demanded, "What did you do this time, Rose?" Jessica buried her face in Mom's shoulder, fake tears rolling as she whispered, "She's been ruining everything." And once again, they believed her instantly. I stood there, surrounded by strangers recording the moment, and something inside me shifted, colder, quieter, sharper. For the first time in my life, I felt the edges of a boundary forming. A line I had never dared to cross. And none of them knew that in just a few minutes, I'd make a decision that would leave my entire family stranded. Before we continue the story, tell me in the comments your name and where you're listening from. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more incredible stories. After Dad ordered me to fix it, I stood there, letting the heat from Jessica's slap pulse across my cheek. The sting wasn't what made my eyes blur. It was the realization that after everything I had done, every sacrifice, every silent moment, they still chose her. Instantly. Thoughtlessly. The terminal suddenly felt too loud. Suitcases thudded across the floor, coffee machines hissed, announcements echoed overhead. Travelers looked at me, awkward and curious, pretending not to stare while recording from behind their phones. A TSA officer even watched cautiously, unsure if he needed to intervene. "I just need a minute," I whispered. Dad waved me off without looking at my face. "Fine. But don't wander off." Jessica clung to Mom dramatically and sniffled. "Just keep her away from me." I walked toward the restrooms, slowly, not dramatically, just trying to steady myself after a blow I never saw coming. My legs felt shaky. My breath uneven. I slipped into a quiet corner near the vending machines where the noise faded. Leaning against the cold tile wall, I pressed my fingers to my cheek. It stung, but humiliation stung far deeper. Slowly, clarity crept in. I remembered Jessica's smirk when she announced the Hawaii trip as if she paid for it. I remembered the pride on my parents' faces. I remembered every year of being overlooked while carrying responsibilities no one acknowledged. And then I remembered something far more important. Every single bill, flight, reservation, was under my name. I pulled out my phone and opened the airline app. There it was, 4 passengers, 1 payer. My heart no longer pounded from fear, it pounded with certainty. I tapped the call button. "Thank you for calling." How may I help you today? The agent asked politely. I exhaled slowly, feeling the shift within me. I need to make a change to a reservation, I said. No anger. No trembling. Just a quiet decision I should have made years ago. As the agent placed me on hold, soft music hummed in my ear. I glanced back at the distant gate. My family sat together, relaxed, comfortable, united in the same old script, Jessica the victim, me the problem. They didn't know the problem wasn't that I walked away. The problem was that I finally stopped coming back broken. What I did next would flip the balance of our family in a way they never saw coming. The airline's hold music faded, and the agent's voice returned, calm and professional. All right, Ms. Morrison, I have your reservation pulled up. 4 passengers to Honolulu. How can I help you today? For the first time all morning, my heart wasn't racing. My hands weren't shaking. I felt steady, clear in a way I hadn't felt in years. I'd like to cancel 3 of the tickets, I said. There was a pause on the other end. 3 tickets, she repeated softly, as if making sure she heard correctly. Yes. Leave only the ticket under Rose Morrison. Another silence, longer this time. Then. Understood. There will be cancellation fees, but the remaining travel credit will return to your account since you paid for the reservation. That's fine. Please proceed. Click. 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 With each soft click on her end, the balance of power in my family shifted. For the first time in 28 years, something was finally changing. When the cancellation confirmation hit my inbox, I stared at it. 3 names removed. 3 people who had used my silence as their safety net. I wasn't angry anymore. I was free. Next, I opened the hotel reservation, 2 oceanfront rooms, connected, upgraded, designed to keep Jessica comfortable. All booked by me. All silently credited to her. I dialed the hotel. Aloha, Ms. Morrison. How may I assist you today? I'd like to modify my booking. 1 room. 1 guest. Of course. I'll process that for you now. Refund. Confirmation. Freedom. Then came the rental car, the SUV my dad insisted on. I replaced it with a simple compact car. 1 driver. 1 seat. 1 purpose, my trip, my peace. With every adjustment, with every email confirming another cancellation, a weight slid off my shoulders. I no longer felt like the daughter standing in the middle of an airport, slapped and blamed. I felt like someone reclaiming her life. When I walked back toward Gate 76, the terminal felt different, like the world had shifted into its proper place. My family didn't notice me at first. Jessica scrolled on her phone. Mom rummaged through her purse. Dad read the news. Calm. Relaxed. As if they hadn't just watched their eldest daughter walk away in pain. They had no idea that the ground beneath them was already cracking. And when I told them what I had done, their reactions were far more revealing than I ever expected. I stepped into their line of sight and said calmly, I'm heading to my gate now. Mom blinked, confused. What? This is your gate, sweetie. Not anymore, I replied. Jessica's eyes narrowed instantly, sensing a threat she couldn't name. What are you talking about, Rose? Stop acting weird. I held up my phone and showed them the screen, bright, undeniable text confirming 3 canceled tickets. I canceled your seats. All 3. The silence that followed was a vacuum, sucking all the air out of the moment. Jessica lunged forward, snatching my phone with trembling hands. Her voice cracked. No, this isn't, why would you do this? I booked this trip. You didn't, I said softly. I did. Every part of it. Mom's voice shook. Rose, this isn't funny. Check with the airline, I replied. If you don't believe me. Dad didn't hesitate. He dialed immediately, repeating the confirmation code with growing sharpness. Jessica hovered beside him, muttering, "She's lying, she's lying." But when the agent confirmed, loud and clear, the truth settled heavily. Dad lowered the phone, face flushed. "How could you do this to us? How could you do this to me?" I answered. "How many times have you watched her lie and expected me to take the blame? How many times have you praised her for things I paid for?" Mom touched my arm, tears building. "We didn't mean." "Yes, you did," I said gently. "You believed her without question. You always do." Jessica's voice trembled, the performance finally stripped away. "I'm sorry, Rose. I shouldn't have slapped you. I was stressed. I wasn't thinking." "You're 26, Jessica," I said quietly. "When do you start thinking?" The boarding announcement echoed overhead. "Now boarding Group A for Honolulu." "My group." Dad stepped in front of me, voice hard. "If you walk through that gate, don't expect to come back." I looked at him, truly looked, and for the first time in my life, his words didn't scare me. "I'm not the one who left," I said softly. "You did, a long time ago." I stepped around him. No one stopped me. The gate agent scanned my ticket and gave me a sympathetic smile. "Rough day?" I breathed out. "It's getting better." But I had no idea that what awaited me in Hawaii would change far more than my family. It would change me. Hawaii felt different the moment I arrived. Not just in scenery, but in atmosphere. In breath. In something deeper. As I stepped onto the balcony of my hotel room, the endless blue ocean stretched before me like a quiet reminder that peace had always existed somewhere. I had just never allowed myself to reach it. The warm breeze brushed the same cheek Jessica had slapped hours earlier. But now, the sting was gone. Completely gone. Over the next few days, I lived a life I didn't know was possible for me. A life without being needed, without carrying someone else's emotions, without being blamed for things I never did. I woke up whenever my body decided. Ate breakfast alone, quietly. Wandered beaches without a schedule. Hiked cliffs that made me feel like I was walking above every burden I'd ever held. I snorkeled beside sea turtles gliding effortlessly through the water, their stillness reminding me what calm actually felt like. I realized how long it had been since I felt something so simple, and so real. My phone buzzed constantly. Calls. Texts. Voicemails. At first, anger. Then confusion. Then guilt disguised as concern. And finally, apologies. I didn't answer any of them. One evening, while sipping iced tea at a small cafe overlooking a painted sunset, I finally opened one message, from Mom. "Please answer. We're worried. We made mistakes. Let's talk." I stared at it, expecting sadness or anger, but felt only clarity. Healing doesn't require going back to the place that hurt you. Sometimes healing means staying quiet long enough for the truth to echo. On my last day, I found an envelope in my forwarded mail, a letter from my parents. I brought it with me on the flight home. I didn't open it until the plane had reached cruising altitude and the cabin lights dimmed. The letter was long. Pages filled with admissions. Confessions of favoritism. Apologies for blind loyalty to Jessica. Acknowledgement of the years they dismissed me, expected from me, leaned on me. They apologized for not seeing me. For not noticing the quiet weight I carried. I folded the letter softly and placed it in the seat pocket in front of me. I wasn't ready to forgive. Not yet. Maybe not soon. But for the first time, the choice was mine. As the clouds broke beneath the descending plane, I stared out the window at the world shifting below. I wasn't returning to the same life. I wasn't returning as the girl who held everything together quietly. I was returning as someone new. Someone finally willing to choose herself. But what waited for me back home proved that my family wasn't finished, and neither was the story. When my plane landed back in Los Angeles, a strange mixture settled in my chest, part calm, part uncertainty, part quiet strength I didn't recognize at first. I wasn't returning as the same Rose who left. Something inside me had shifted permanently. Stepping into my apartment, the silence felt heavier than usual. Not suffocating, just honest. Real. The kind of silence that shows you how much noise you used to live with. I unpacked slowly. Each item I pulled from my suitcase felt like part of a new identity: sand-dusted shoes, soft clothes that smelled faintly of ocean wind, souvenirs that reminded me of peace I didn't know I deserved. This was the first time I'd unpacked without feeling rushed. Without anyone waiting. Without anyone needing me. When I finally checked my phone, the notifications were overwhelming. Missed calls. Voicemails. Long paragraphs from Jessica. Short, stilted messages from Dad. Repeated texts from Mom. Their voices lingered in the silence. Dad's voicemail was short. "Rose, call us." But Jessica's messages were something else entirely. "We need to talk. You can't just ignore us forever. I'm being serious now. Rose. I'm sorry." The last message was barely a whisper in audio form. "I miss you." That one surprised me, not because it softened me, but because it revealed something I'd never considered. Jessica wasn't used to living with consequences. For once, the world didn't bend to protect her. Later that evening, a soft knock echoed through my apartment. Not frantic. Not demanding. Just hesitant. When I opened the door, my parents stood there. They looked smaller than I remembered. Older. Tired. Mom's eyes were swollen, Dad's shoulders slumped, not in anger, but in regret. "We wrote everything in the letter," Mom said softly. "But we wanted to say it in person." I let them in. Not because I owed them anything, but because I wanted to hear the truth without interruptions, without the noise of old patterns. Dad sat down slowly. "We leaned on you too much. We depended on you because you seemed strong enough to handle everything." He hesitated before adding. "And Jessica always needed more attention. More help. We thought protecting her meant praising her, comforting her, even when she didn't deserve it." Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. "Jessica." And the look on her face said this conversation was far from over. Because the moment Jessica stepped inside, everything I thought I knew about our family shifted again. Jessica stepped into my apartment with a hesitation I had never seen from her before. No dramatics. No hair flip attitude. No fake trembling to win sympathy. Just a quiet, uneasy stillness that made me straighten in my seat. She looked around my living room slowly, as if she were seeing my life for the first time, not the version she always dismissed, but the truth of it. "Rose," she said finally, her voice small, "can we talk?" I nodded. "Go ahead." She swallowed hard. "I know I messed up. At the airport. Before that. A lot before that." Her eyes dropped to the floor. "I wasn't expecting you to cancel the trip. I thought. I don't know, you'd just forgive me like always." Her honesty surprised me, but so did the next part. "I talked to a therapist while you were gone." My eyebrows lifted. "Jessica? Therapy?" That alone sounded like a plot twist. She continued, voice shaky. "They helped me see. I've always acted like I deserved more because I never thought I was enough on my own. So I tried to take attention instead of earning it." A tear slid down her cheek. "But people just liked you. Trusted you. You made things work. And instead of appreciating that, I hated it." She wiped her face roughly. "I was jealous of you, Rose. My whole life." The room went silent. Not painful silence. Just the kind that follows truth when it finally comes out. Mom squeezed my hand. Dad looked at Jessica with something between shock and relief. I spoke quietly. Jealousy doesn't excuse hurting people. Slapping me. Lying about the trip. Expecting everything to revolve around you. Jessica nodded quickly. I know. I know. I was awful. And I'm not expecting you to forgive me today. Or anytime soon. Then she took a deep breath, one that shook her whole body. But I want to change. And I want to fix this, if you'll let me. For the first time in years, her eyes held no manipulation. No competition. No entitlement. Just truth. And that alone shifted something inside me. I didn't forgive her. Not instantly. Healing doesn't work like that. But I did something just as important. I listened. And she kept talking, about her insecurities, her guilt, her regrets, and the shame she had carried in silence. When she finally stopped, the room didn't feel divided anymore. Not healed. Not perfect. But no longer broken beyond repair. And yet, the most unexpected moment of all came after the apologies, when Jessica revealed the one truth none of us were prepared to hear. Jessica sat down slowly, wiping the last tear from her cheek. My parents watched her, waiting, nervous, cautious, sensing something heavy still lingering behind her eyes. She inhaled shakily, then looked at me with a seriousness I had only seen once or twice in my entire life. There's something else I need to tell you, she said quietly. Something I've been hiding for a long time. My stomach tightened. Not out of fear, but because secrets in our family always came with damage. Jessica glanced at Mom and Dad before speaking again. I'd been in debt, she whispered. Bad debt. Mom gasped. Dad straightened. But Jessica didn't stop. I've been pretending everything was fine. The new clothes, the apartment, the trips. It was all credit cards. Loans. Stuff I couldn't pay back. She paused, voice cracking. And I kept expecting you, like always. To save me. She sat there, trembling, hands twisted together. When you canceled the trip, it hit me. I built my whole life around the idea that you'd fix everything. That you'd pick up the pieces. That you existed to make room for me. A tear fell again. And when you didn't, I realized how empty my life really was. Mom covered her mouth with her hand. Dad rubbed his face with a mixture of exhaustion and heartbreak. And I felt something I never expected. Compassion. Not the kind that excuses everything. Not the kind that lets people walk all over you again. But the kind that sees someone's humanity without ignoring the harm they've done. I spoke slowly, carefully. What do you want from me, Jessica? She shook her head. Nothing. Not this time. I just want you to know I'm trying. I'm getting help. I don't expect you to fix my life. I just hope someday you'll let me be part of yours again. The room softened. Not with instant forgiveness. Not with sudden healing. But with something gentler. Understanding. We talked long into the night. Not as the perfect daughter and the problem child. Not as roles we had been trapped in our whole lives. But as two women trying to rebuild what was broken between them. When my family finally left, the air in my apartment felt lighter. Cleaner. Brighter. I stood by the window and looked out at the city lights blinking against the dark sky. I realized something profound. Sometimes choosing yourself doesn't break a family. Sometimes, it saves it. And as I turned off the lights and headed to bed, I felt a quiet certainty settle in my heart. I didn't regret a thing.